more and more disturbed by it. But
it's such a weird thing. It's like we were talking about that when we were eating. Just like, there's something really beautiful about being connected in this lineage, like a physical representation, but also like, what do we really think about
people's
this?
genitals.
This is odd.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we're talking about, well, should we just do it at the bar mitzvah? And we're like, well, then everybody would just say no.
Right, exactly. I think if you're going to do it, doing it as, you know, as an infant is better.
Yeah.
Definitely later in life, but
how far back are we going?
Probably not as good. It's just because the mic picks up from there, so.
Is it virtual class?
Both virtual and in person.
Oh, that's cool.
Hopefully people should.
What
One more table. It's about the hidden history of Hanukkah. Like what are the actual sources for Hanukkah? Why do the rabbis have evidence about Hanukkah? How did we catch on anyway? Doesn't have the whole story about the oil and the 8 days, whatever. That's a kind of like rabbinic and like addition to kind of make it more, give it a kosher miracle kind of thing.
Yeah. So
originally it was just like a military victory. You know, the few versus the many.
So why do you think out of all of the stories, this one was that results in Hanukkah?
Well, I think there's just something archetypal about having a holiday of light at winter solstice. Honestly,
yeah,
that's like
that makes sense.
People kind of need it. It's kind of clear from, like, it is referenced a few times that people were celebrating it. So I think it just kind of caught on, like it has it nowadays. Like people who don't do all that much Jewish stuff.
Yeah,
kind of
like Hanukkah is maybe it is because we're just striving for light during the darkest parts of the year. The holidays go together.
Exactly. And everyone loves a little Hanukkah matana, a little present.
Yeah.
Like your new knitting. I don't know how many people are going to come.
How many chairs?
I think if we... That should be fine. If more people come. It's nice and warm in here. We've been without power for the last 2 days.
Oh yeah, how has the wind been?
Actually, the wind is like... I've seen some downed trees along the road, but it didn't feel particularly windy anywhere I was. But maybe, clearly it must have been windy or, you know.
Yeah.
Taking power out or... There were also like tree surgery vehicles like parked everywhere, kind of like awaiting, like in case some stuff comes down. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, enjoy your
Thank you.
class.
Well, do my best.
I think we're probably going to get out of here soon.
Okay.
But it's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.
Excellent. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
Your new family member.
Family member.
Oh. Now they were back to noon. What does yours say?
Yeah, that's what mine said most recently. It said 4, then it said noon. I wonder if it's just going to be us. Maybe we should wait.
It might be on.
It might be.
It'll be on. That would be good.
That would be good. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, it would.
It'd be nice
I
if
feel
not.
I need to cook up anything.
Right.
In my
Everything that
freezer.
was.
It's going to be a cooking and composting afternoon.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
All right. Well,
We just got a new fridge, and yesterday, at any rate, the stuff in the fridge was still cold. But I feel like by
Right.
today, less so.
Yeah, I think it depends on what it is. So we were looking up eggs and had to test whether they're cooked or not cooked.
How do you?
So you put it in water, and if they sink, they stay at the bottom. They're okay. Whether they're like I have boiled ones and I have raw ones. If they stand up, then they're okay, but they're not as fresh. And if they float, then they're not good.
Yeah, right, because of the sulfur.
Sulfur or
Yeah, I think so, because rotten eggs
Does it-
produce sulfur and that rises.
okay, that makes sense.
I don't know if there's a way to test how the live stream. Hello.
Oh, you're doing live stream also.
Apparently, that's. I was told. Nate said he was. Maybe. Hello. Come in. It's
I gonna check that.
It says it
periodically.
had said 4 and now it says noon.
Right, that's what mine
Yeah.
said. And we're in the same neighborhood.
Yeah,
It's Karen.
Hi.
Hi, Miriam.
I'm just gonna text Nate and see if.
Oh, fine. I just hung out with Jack for a couple minutes and Linda and Sarah. And
Oh, nice. How's Jack doing?
Jack is holding his own.
Great.
I should call my daughter and tell her I got him to take his pills. My daughter, takes care of him 4 mornings a week.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And she always says it's startling when she gets there and he has already taken his pills.
Okay. Oh, Dan Tuggle just told me that the live stream is working. Thank you so much, Daniel. I was just texting Nate. You can hear us? Can you hear Karen if she speaks?
Hello, can you hear me?
This is so funny. Communicating.
Are we all visible at this
I
table? Or
don't
just
know.
you?
Probably just me. You can come sit next to me if you want to be on the live stream.
I don't need to be.
Okay, great. All right. Let's just wait another couple minutes for, we're running on Jewish Mean Time, of course.
And how long do you think will be? An hour?
I had said an hour and a half. He says yes, but
Now I'm more
an hour
anxious to
and
get
a
home
quarter.
and do all my
Oh, yeah,
cooking
right,
and
exactly.
composting.
You were
Like,
trying for a minute. You were like, "Oh, I'll go somewhere warm and with electric light." Oh, Dan says he can see you as well. He can
Oh,
see
okay.
you and hear you.
I was here yesterday. I said, I just came for the tea. I had 3 cups of tea. But then
It's surprisingly disconcerting, not being like yesterday. I was like, "Oh, I can't have a hot drink. I can't have a hot shower. I can't do anything. All I can do is just put more blankets on." And it wasn't even perishingly cold, luckily.
Right.
I mean, it was not as warm as the previous
The
day.
first day
It
was
quite
okay,
warm,
kind of
yeah.
an adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yesterday was
It
starting to
gets
get
a
to
little
me.
tiresome. Yeah, and I've been taking care of my housemate's dog.
I
so
realized
couldn't
that
just freeze
not
you.
having power gave me a sense of emotional powerlessness.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as my housemate pointed out, what a blessing that usually we just don't take it for granted at all. But
Right.
we live.
I
in-
know.
we live
I
in
did
a
all the
reality
gratefulness
where
and
we-
everything, and grateful it was warm, but then yesterday it wasn't as warm, and
Yeah.
all the things, and then after
That's
Shabbat was over, and I realized, okay, now I can actually boil water and do stuff on my stove. I have a gas stove.
Oh, you have a gas stove. Oh, well, that's
Yeah,
fortunate. You could at least cook.
But still, I don't know. There's something very disconcerting about it.
Totally.
And I had a rechargeable headlamp,
Uh-huh.
and then all of a sudden it went off.
Oh no.
Luckily, I was sitting down because all I could do was read. So I was reading. I read a whole book.
I read a whole bunch of. Oh, let me send
Are
to
you talking about Shabbos?
Yeah, between Friday night and
Daniel.
last
I'm
night.
gonna
Wait, your
I'm
whole
gonna
book.
email you
Was
the
your
link to
electricity
the
It's been out for 2
to the
days.
source
Mine
sheet.
was
Is it
out.
just the
So
latest
if you
one?
can hear when we're all
Right,
together
the
at once.
other one. I don't
It
remember
was out
anymore.
Wednesday. I had dental surgery on Monday. My electricity went out on Wednesday. My fence got blown apart. And thank you God, I was outside. My neighbor came to bring me Hanukkah lights.
Oh,
And we're standing outside in the hot, wild blowing wind. And the latch that holds the gate together came apart in the wind. And because we were both there and I have a lot of rocks, she put the rocks outside the fence and I put the rocks inside and we stabilized it
Oh, good.
through the night. And the next day,
Nothing hurt anybody or anything.
nobody, and the fence also intact.
Wow.
And my neighbor who helps me with stuff came the next day as soon as the wind stopped and replaced the latch and got everything back together and said, thank God I was here because my fence would have been splinters in the wind.
Right.
So I feel blessed.
Yeah. My flamenco friend had a window blowout. She had double pane, but it blew out. And she said, during COVID, we would practice in the park, so we on boards. And she said, my board came in handy because it pretty much covered her neighbor had to come over. And she said, just when there was a lull, he was able to go up on this ladder. She spotted him. He nailed the board in and then came down, and then the wind picked up immediately.
We're blessed even though
Very freaky. Yeah.
it's all freaky. Yes.
Yeah. But boy, the quiet and the dark, lighting the lights,
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
it's really something, right?
Yes. There's something magical about the dark and all the electricity off. Because there's no background
It's,
hum.
right.
Mhm.
I like the quiet.
I did. Yeah, it did feel very nicely quiet. And on
And then it started to feel too quiet.
on Thursday night, it was so nice sitting with the fire and the Hanukkah candles.
Yeah.
That felt very
peaceful.
You have a
Wednesday night.
fireplace?
We have a fireplace.
Ah,
Are you still in the same house I was at?
Uh-huh.
Good.
Right in your neighborhood.
Yeah, up from you towards north.
Okay, I don't know if there's a way to share the source sheet with live stream participants because it's not exactly like Zoom. I don't know if that's possible. I just texted Daniel to ask him if he can.
do you have it on your phone where you could send it to Daniel?
Well, I can send it to Daniel, but I don't know if he can send it to the other live stream participants.
I'm going to go pee before we start.
How many people?
I also
heard you
don't
say
know
that.
Everybody listen.
How many people are on live stream?
I have no way of knowing that.
Oh,
All right, if there is a way for me to know that, I don't know how to. I can put it up on my phone, but I don't know how to like share it from here on the phone.
you would send it, right? What format do you have it in?
I have it on the Safaria app, but I can grab my.
Oh,
I'll grab my iPad.
there might be a way to just forward it directly from the app. See if there's like a.
I couldn't see how. I'll just grab my iPad.
Can I take one? Yeah.
Oh please, yeah. You can start reading it. Sorry, I printed it tiny because it's. Well,
That's okay. I can read it. Oh, I see. There's two. Huh.
although now you're getting all the answers to the questions, but that's okay.
Is it in Maccabees where they discuss Ruach Nefesh?
I don't think
It's
so.
because it comes from this, I think, where I think it was during the war where they didn't fight back, and then, I don't know, I studied all that,
Oh,
the
interesting.
text about that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's really
I
cool.
wonder if you can
I
find
had
it.
Drisha years ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
So, okay, I won't get ahead of you. I have questions,
We'll
but-
wait for Miriam to come back. Okay, let me just find name. Great. Share.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, copy.
I feel Shakti Pa from Briss.
You do?
I do.
Okay, I sent to Daniel the. What's this? Is
Not
it-
yet. Power's not back on.
Oh, well, then you don't need
People
to
at my
rush in.
house.
The people in your house say.
Yeah.
There are people in your house?
The other day they told me it was on and it was due to come on and it wasn't on, so.
I was in the map area. Did this happen to you? I was in the map area that it was supposed to be out, but mine was not out.
I couldn't open the map because I didn't have the internet.
Yeah, right.
Noticed that.
I was in the dark.
The literal dog.
All right.
I don't know who's here on live stream, but welcome, Daniel and whoever else is here on live stream. I've asked Daniel if he can figure out a way to get you the source sheets. Maybe he can put it up on the Bonnet website or something. I actually don't know how that works. This is my first time with such technological advances. I just have my phone up here in case Daniel's trying to reach me. Miriam and Karen, thank you very much for being our exemplary students here in person.
Thank you for being exemplary, teacher.
Thank you. Well, wait till I've talked before we...
Oh no, I've sat with you before.
Okay. So, let's just start with the big question. Where does Hanukkah come from? What's it all about? And how do we know? Oh, you can say whatever.
We know, well, actually Rabbi Mark talked about it yesterday. It's only in the book of Maccabees.
Okay. So what's the book of Maccabees?
So it was written by the Maccabees, I guess. I don't know. It was written in the...
In the Second Temple
Temple
of Judea from
Yeah.
145 to 125 BCE.
Okay, so they think it was written by a Jewish author in Hebrew about 20 years after, somewhere between 20 and 40 years after the events described. According to Safaria, which is where I got this from, the author may have been an eyewitness to the events described. It's pretty pious. If you read the Book of Maccabees, like they're always praying and making offerings. It's pretty it doesn't seem particularly radical. However, what's important for us to note is the Book of Maccabees didn't make it into the Tanakh, right? It's actually not part of the Hebrew Bible. It is included in the canonical Bible in some of the Christian churches, in the Orthodox churches.
Do you know which ones?
Well, I think all 5 Orthodox churches, which is like Ethiopian, Syriac, Greek, Russian, and Catholic, or Eastern. Well, I can't remember what the 5 Orthodox is, something like that. So Roman Catholic is only one of 5 Orthodox
And
old
Russian, the ones you
school
said,
churches.
Greek,
Yeah,
Russian.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, there was no Russia then, so whatever. Maybe it was just called the Eastern Church.
I bet.
In any case, they do count it as part of the Bible. The Protestants, like the Jews, count it as part of the Apocrypha. So you may have heard the word apocryphal meaning something like legendary and not necessarily true.
Right.
But in terms of biblical studies, the Apocrypha means books that were written around the same time but didn't make it into the Bible. Didn't make the cut to get into the Bible, but were still preserved as being sort of
Other books.
Sacred.
semi-sacred, right?
Yeah. Other books.
So our friend Naomi Schwartz is a student and teacher of the Book of Tobit, I think, which is another book of the Apocrypha.
And Esther, isn't that?
So interestingly, good. Exactly where I was going to go next. So we have our book of Esther, Megillat Esther, but there is also an apocryphal version. So sometimes there can be 2 versions, one that makes it into the canon and one that doesn't. In the apocryphal Esther, God is all over the place. You know, like the famous thing in the book of Esther is like God doesn't appear as a character
Not
and
named.
isn't invoked explicitly, but God, I think at least, is invoked in prayer in the book of Esther, in the apocryphal version. So interestingly, the people who canonized made the choice to go with the version that we have, right? Which is interesting. There may be other reasons for it too, but that's an interesting thing to know. So some of the apocryphal books are in Hebrew, but not all of them. And some of them may originally have been in Hebrew, but we don't have them surviving in Hebrew. We have them in Greek or in Aramaic. But the book of Maccabees, there are 2 books of Maccabees, and they're in Hebrew. Although if I didn't do a very careful, this translation was already on there in Safaria, but just doing a little bit of like cross-referencing, sometimes you can see that like what's in the English is not exactly what's in the Hebrew. So the English translation may come actually from the Septuagint, which is the Greek Bible, and that's why sometimes there's some license taken or like whatever, so something like the Midrash gets folded into the text in translation, which is one of the reasons that ancient translations are really interesting, because they tell you what people thought it meant at the time, or like what was current in their minds, kind of thing. Anyway, so why do you think, before we have a look at what's here in the Book of Maccabees, what do you know, maybe Rabbi Mark talked about this yesterday, stealing a march, about why the Book of Maccabees wasn't included in the Tanakh? Any ideas why?
It didn't turn out well.
Say more.
I don't remember details. I think
Everybody
it led to a lot of corruption and so on. Yeah.
Yeah.
The win didn't turn out well.
Yeah. So actually, within 5 years of the Hanukkah victory, I think all of the brothers had been killed in action. So I think number 1 was it was a pretty partial victory. Yeah. Thing number 2 is, we tell the story as like it was an occupying empire and then the rebel forces fought back, but it was actually more like a civil war. And the Hasmonean dynasty did last for 100 and something years. Not that long actually, because they were taken. Herod. They eventually, I put it in here somewhere, decline and fall. Yeah, decline and fall 37 BCE. So they were only really in power for like 100 odd years. It's at the top of the next page.
Well, that is a substantial time if we think about our politics right
Yes,
now.
it's true.
Right.
It's true. In reality,
did
that's quite a
destroy
long
after.
time. In reality, it's quite a long time, and there were some good ones in there. Shlom Tzion Salome Alexandra was supposed to be like this great queen of peace. She was a great diplomat. She was queen. She was a great diplomat. But basically, the other than it being civil war throughout and it ending in being taken over by the Romans and the temple being destroyed for good, so the rabbis didn't like them very much for that reason, because they were also they were like, for all that we tell the story of it's like cultural purity and pride in the face of empire. Like at least one of the factions was pretty Hellenized, especially by the end. The Hasmoneans were very much in the sway of the dominant culture. So it's kind of an irony of the whole thing.
So are the Hasmoneans the same as the Maccabees?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Maccabees later are called the Hasmoneans.
The Hasmoneans is like actually the name of the family, and Maccabee was like their nickname, and something to do with
that was a
Hebrew
specific
hammer.
family, right?
But possibly that. Judah Maccabee was it may have been just like his personal.
Yeah, this is like Simon Maccabeus, Judah's brother.
Yeah.
And
so the other things, it's a good question. I'm not quite sure if they're exactly the same, the Maccabees and the Hasmoneans, or if the Maccabees are a subset within the Hasmoneans. Updates from Excel. But basically, the two things that, other than like the general Hellenizing influence in civil war, the two things that the rabbis really like have that like if they have drama with the Hasmoneans. The big one is that they are a priestly family, they're Kohanim, and they set themselves up as the high priests, and they pass the high priesthood through their family. That may or may not have been legitimate. I don't know if they actually were they were the first in line for supposed to be the descendants of Aaron, but they also set themselves up as kings.
So both at the same time?
Both at the same time. And sometimes it was like two brothers, one was the high priest and one was the king. But there was supposed to be a balance of power, and the kingship was supposed to be in the line of Judah, right?
Right.
Yehuda. So the rabbis really didn't like that they were priest kings. That's like a big no-no. And obviously it did lead to a lot of corruption. If you're the secular and the religious authority, that's not good. We know we want a separation of powers. We want some checks and balances, right? They're basically, if you've heard of like the Pharisees versus the Sadducees, like the Second Temple period, the Sadducees, so the Pharisees are basically the intellectual ancestors of the rabbis, what we call the rabbis, like the rabbis of the Mishnah and the Talmud. They're Pharisees, or they're in the Pharisaic lineage. The Hasmoneans are the patrons of the Sadducees.
Oh, they're the Sadducees.
They're the Sadducees, basically. The Sadokim come from the line of Zadok. It's a particular priest, Zadok. So the people who wrote the Talmud didn't love the Hasmoneans. That's the bottom line. They were not big fans of the Hasmoneans for some pretty good reasons. And also just like their personal differences. And sometimes the Pharisees and the Sadducees had sort of legitimate splits over practice or theology, just like Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, which the Pharisees, our lineage, preserved with respect. Like we never really go with Beit Shammai, but we don't say that Shammai was a bad guy. We're just like, okay, we don't.
Different opinions.
We different opinions, exactly, and we have a great value on there being different opinions, and like the whole Talmud is in the form of discussion and debate, right? So our primary text for Hanukkah is Maccabees, in the two books of Maccabees, which, as we see, we have preserved, but it's not in the canon. Later, and they don't really know when it was written, probably they give like a 700-year window or something like that, but roughly the same time as the Talmud, so somewhere between the 1st and 7th century BCE, there's something called the Book of Antiochus, which is this Hanukkah story again. That's written in Aramaic, and in some Jewish communities that was canonical. Sadia Gaon, who was like a really, really big, important guy around 1900, Sephardi authority, translated it into Arabic. And it was part of, in some, I think more in the Sephardi world, it was read on Hanukkah, like we read Megillat Esther. They would read Sefer Antiochus, or Megillat, I think it's actually called Megillat Antiochus. And that tells a story again. And apparently to this day, it's still in some Yemenite. Wow. All this I found out I didn't know.
Good.
Yeah. So we do have another historical source that describes the Hanukkah story, which is Josephus. Have you heard of Josephus?
Mm-hmm.
He was a Jew, but he was captured, or he ended up in the Roman court, and he wrote in Latin about the Jews.
Didn't he keep historical record?
I mean,
Semi-historical?
yes, somewhat. We don't know. I mean, obviously, like every historian is like
Bias.
has a bias, right? Every historian has bias. He also was not a totally free writer, right? You know, he has patrons in the Roman. He's in the Roman court. Like he can't completely give his total free opinion. He's got to like walk his diplomatic line. In any case, it's a very useful historical source that is not. It's not a religious source per se. It's more what we would call a historical source. Okay, so with that background, I thought we could take a little look at what we get from the Book of Maccabees, and then see how the same material shows up in the rabbinic sources, which I will introduce. There's one other important rabbinic source that we'll get to. But let's have a look at the.
And I have a question.
Yes, please.
I thought I heard you say, and I'm wanting to clarify.
Yeah.
This was the destruction that was the last temple, and after this political event, the temple was gone until now. Is that so?
So the Maccabees, this story takes place around 164. The Hanukkah miracle takes place around 164 BCE.
Okay.
And then the temple is already, like, there were two temples, right?
Right, first and second.
The first had already been destroyed.
Couple hundred years.
300 years, 400 years before that, and been rebuilt.
And being rebuilt.
Yes, it had been rebuilt. So we were now in the Second Temple period. And by the way, if you want to look up the apocryphal books on Sepharia, if you go to the text section and scroll down, it's called Second Temple period. So if you go to Second Temple period, you'll find all the apocryphal works in there on Sepharia, for those who are interested. So this is during the time of the Second Temple. It had been rebuilt. The Second Temple was destroyed by the Romans around 70 CE.
Right.
So it was not.
So it's not gone.
It's not gone. No, they successfully recaptured the temple and rededicated the temple.
And
then it continued for another couple hundred years until a little more than 200 years until the Romans destroy it in 70 CE.
And another question: in
Yes.
which source does the story of the oil appear?
Ah, great question. Thanks for keeping us on track. So let's
Because it's not in here.
because it's not in
Rabbi
here.
Mark mentioned that yesterday,
Right.
which was a little demoralizing, to tell you the truth.
Why? I couldn't get my car out of
So there
the
was no. So that's so Karen's already kind of skipped to the punchline, which is that there's the miracle of the oil, our famous bit that we all know, isn't explicit in the Book of Maccabees. So we've got two accounts in the Book of Maccabees. The longer one in the first Book of Maccabees, which is like 20 something verses here, and then there's also a little reference to it in the second Book of Maccabees. So let's just read.
Okay.
Do you want to? I think we should read aloud in case anyone's on live stream and not able to see the source.
Thank you for this research.
Oh, my pleasure. Teaching is 90% in the preparation. So, does somebody want to read, or shall I read in English?
We can go around.
Okay, that's a good idea. I'll start. Then said Judas and his brethren, "Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up and cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary." So the question here is like, what do we notice, and what do we notice by its absence? Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up onto Mount Zion. Miriam, verse 38.
And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned up, and the shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes, and made great lamentation, and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with trumpets, and cried toward heaven.
Okay.
Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress, until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleaned the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place.
Okay, so he sets up a watch, or he sets some people to hold off the enemy, and then he picks his special guys to like clean up the temple. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profaned, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them.
Then they took whole stones according to the law, and built a new altar according to the former. And they made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts.
They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick, and the altar
Which is
of
the
burnt.
menorah, by the way. I should have.
The
It
menorah.
should say menorah.
It should say menorah. When it says
They
candlestick,
brought-
that's
okay.
menorah.
Into the temple they brought the menorah, and the altar of burnt offerings, and of incense, and the table. And upon the altar they burned incense, and the lamps that were upon the menorah they lighted, that they might give light to the temple.
Go on, one more.
Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table, and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make.
Now, on the 5th and 20th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Kislev, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning and offered sacrifices according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look, at what time or what day the heathen hath profaned it, even in that it was it dedicated, even in what that was it dedicated, with songs and cithens and harps and cymbals.
Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshipping and praising God of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise.
They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, with the whole congregation of Israel, ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month of Kislev, with mirth and gladness.
All right, nice
And there we
reading.
have it.
Okay, so there we have it. So what do we have here that is like, okay, that's Hanukkah.
8 days.
8 days.
Yeah.
And gladness.
Yes, rejoicing, like 8 days, gladness, and when should it happen?
Oh,
After the temple was rebuilt and re-sanctified.
the
Yes.
5th and 20th day of the month of Kislev.
Exactly, which is indeed when Hanukkah begins.
Okay.
That's when we say
That's
So
the
they
given day.
decided, Judas and his brethren, with the whole congregation, decided that they should keep this
Apparently.
at the time.
Apparently.
That's interesting.
Apparently. Yes. That they say,
Yeah, like
yeah, we should do this year on year. Yeah, we should.
Let's
we
make an
should-
annual festival.
Let's make an annual festival, which is how Burning Man started.
They
They,
ordained-
they
Any-
burned a thing, and then they were like, "Oh, we should come again and do this next year. This was fun. Let's do it."
What
again."
does it say in the Hebrew? It says ordained here. I mean, it sounds like they're
V'yitzaveha.
exercising authority. Did they have that authority? It's interesting,
did.
Right?
right?
Good question. Good question. Exactly. So,
Who
what
was the high priest then? Was
well, they were in a kind of lapse, right?
Right.
Because the temple had
everything had been
been
smuts.
yeah, exactly. So it ends up being this family who take on the priesthood, the high priesthood,
And the kingship, you just said.
and the kingship. I think in the next generation they also take on the kingship. So what don't we see here, as Karen was pointing out before?
We don't see the miracle of the oil.
No miracle of the oil. We do see them lighting the menorah, but it's in the context of like resetting all of the sacred items of the thing, and the focus is much more on the altar, right? And there's the old altar's been defiled. Let's move the stones. We're not quite sure what to do with them yet, but we're going to set up a new altar. So the focus is more the altar than the menorah. It is there, but there's none of the business of the.
It's the same sideline as any place else, the menorahs. And
Yeah,
the
exactly.
sacrifice seemed to be important.
Yes, and, right,
I like
exactly.
that there's a lot about cleansing the altar. That even though something has been profaned, you really get the sense that you can You can
You
clean
can
it up
reset up.
and move forward.
That's right.
I don't hear that much in the teachings around Hanukkah that we should be doing that. And
Oh,
it's
the-
really a good kavana.
Yeah, very nice. I mean, this year I've been thinking to myself as I light, because the word Hanukkah means dedication.
Yeah.
As I light each candle, like, what am I dedicated to
Rededicated.
in my life, or what am I rededicating
Yeah.
myself to in my life? And I've just been sort of letting it come each night, like what's present now. And sometimes it's like what's present in the field right now in the context that I'm in. But I've never even done that before, like asking myself, what am I dedicated to at Hanukkah? But it's a very good point. Like, if this is a festival of cleansing and purification
And
we
rededication.
We really don't have that kavana so much now around Hanukkah.
This is
Good
true.
point.
We clean big before
Rosh
Pesach,
Hashanah.
Rosh
And
Hashanah,
right, yeah.
and not before this.
And we clean
Right.
for Pesach. This is like, it feels more like we're cleansing ourselves with the light. You know,
Ah,
That's
nice.
beautiful. Like burning,
Yes.
burning out.
you know, the idea of it
shivers.
being the Or Haganus. and
Right.
That we're cleansing ourselves in a different way.
And as in the bigger picture, as the light is coming back, we are cleansed by it.
Oh, and happy solstice, by the way.
Right, and
Yeah.
happy solstice, by the way.
Yes. So I want to read the next source because that actually connects to exactly what you were saying. I want to bring in another piece. So from the second book of Maccabees, we had
Same
just this like
page?
3-4 verses. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
just
next source
down,
down.
Okay.
A little bit.
This is the second book of Maccabees, chapter 10, verses 8 to 11. Do you want to take it, Karen?
Me?
Karen.
Yeah.
Okay. And from the Lord it was this, to purge the house on the same day that the nations defiled it. And it was the 25th day of the month.
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to point out. The previous one, that was when Judah says this thing in the middle about it was on that very day. So there's also this idea that like it had been defiled on the 25th of Kislev, and it was like a perfect anniversary when they got it back again, like 3 years later. or
Oh,
something.
is that what it's saying?
Here it's more
Oh,
explicit,
yeah.
but where
The same
Judah
day that they
said,
defiled it. Oh, so it was like a year later?
oh,
Is that
3
what you
years
think?
later, I think.
How many?
Something.
3.
Or yeah, something
Oh.
like that.
And that's Sarah Bracha said, I don't know.
That's my recollection.
Okay, interesting.
But it was somewhere in this first source too. Oh yeah, look at verse 52. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. So there's a
Like
reference
tikkun.
there. It's a tikkun that like it was profaned on that day and then
Repaired.
repaired on that day. Okay, so this is made explicit again, which is not something that we preserve that part of the legend in the way that we celebrate Hanukkah, right?
Right, but it is an interesting to take into our own
It's somewhere in
lives.
there. But
Yes.
here we get yes, that's true. Exactly, like from within the
It's that circular
Yeah,
or
thing that
spiral.
we do,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
and
the-
interesting the month of Kis each month in the Hebrew calendar is ruled by a letter according to the Sefer Yetzirah, and the letter for the month of Kislev is the Samach, perfect circle,
Ah,
Perfect circle.
which is the miracle letter.
because it doesn't fall, the stuff
Right,
doesn't fall out.
if you carve it out of stone, like it should fall through, but it doesn't, it stays there.
Which is a question that
It's
rabbis
completely-
ask: if the tablets of stone were carved all the way through, how come the middle of the samach and the final mem didn't fall out? Because it was magic, like your earrings.
There's
also.
magic.
Your-
Well,
you've
how
got
come you
samach
could
in
read
your
the
earrings.
letters the same way from both
And
sides?
from both sides, which I had a mystical dream about one time. I'll tell you.
Wait, which are you saying they're the same on?
There is also
The first-
there's also a legend that like it was carved all the way through, but it looked the same from both sides.
It read the same, and it
said-
was
read the
sapphire.
same.
Okay,
And then
yeah.
it was made by God. God can do all sorts of
That's
clever
right, why
tricks.
not?
Yeah.
And maybe it's in our heads.
Yes.
Maybe God tampers with us as we're looking.
Yes, maybe.
Or maybe sometimes
it's
you
like
have to hurrah.
holographic. Yeah.
If we let ourselves be tampered with.
Yeah.
If we
Well,
open
we can't
ourselves up
necessarily stop
to
ourselves being
Right, all the
tempted.
dances.
Right, right.
Yes. All right. So
Okay.
yeah.
So
So this
we're-
next verse here in Second Maccabees is what I want us to look at.
And they celebrated a festival, this line?
Yeah.
And they celebrated a festival to the Lord for 8 days. And the days of the festival of, like the days of the festival of Sukkot. And they remembered the previous days when they celebrated the festival of Sukkot in the mountains and in caves. And they went out in the desolate wilderness like wild beasts.
And moreover,
They took willows of the brook and branches of palm trees, and they sang a song of praise and thanksgiving to the Lord Hashem, who gave them courage and salvation to purify the temple of his holiness. and they sent a voice, in all the cities of Judah celebrate this festival every year.
Okay. So
So are they saying that they did some of the Sukkot?
Yes.
Minchag?
yes,
Or
not
not?
only did they say it's a festival like Sukkot in that it's 8 days long,
Mhm.
but also it's the idea of like it's a make-up date because they couldn't set. So in ancient times, Sukkot was like the big one, and in fact, in the
Sukkot was the biggest, more
It's
than
the
Yom
biggest-
Kippur.
more than Yom Kippur.
Oh, so it's like a Sukkot Sheni.
Exactly. In the ancient
Pesach
text,
Sheni.
when it says Chag, sometimes it just calls it Chag.
Yeah.
That means Sukkot. Like if it just says the festival, it means Sukkot.
Ah,
And okay, I'll just do that.
Willows and palms.
So the idea is that they couldn't come up to pilgrimage on Sukkot because the temple was not in their hands. So now this is like a make-up date for Sukkot.
Wow.
The idea is less that just celebrating the military victory or the rededication of the altar, also that it's like a make-up date for Sukkot.
That's cool.
And that, as you point out, they even benched lulav on. That's what that is. Willows
the
and the
willows
branches
and the
of palm
right,
trees,
and
right?
palm- But this
that's
is
that.
already winter.
Which is,
Yes,
you're
how
going
do
to
they
ask
get
questions.
all these
Yeah,
stuff?
well, willows and
Willows and
Well, it's
palms.
Israel. They
palms.
still
Yeah.
all
They still
Yeah.
have it, yeah.
yeah, maybe it was that way. It doesn't say they had etrogs because they didn't have etrogs that season, but I can believe they had willows.
But I was
And
more
palm
thinking
branches.
like how it is in Israel or in the Holy Land in fall when it's Sukkot time, different from what it's like 3 months later now.
Yeah. But I think you would still have willows. Because
Okay,
willows are
I
perennial.
don't believe it.
Willows are perennial. They don't shed their leaves. I mean, they're like, what's the word?
I think there
I
was
don't think
another
they shed their leaves. Willows.
willow.
Willows
Another
don't
word
really
for
shed
it?
their leaves.
No, they don't.
Yeah, so they would still be up there. Okay, but yes, it's a good question.
And also, I like the wild beasts.
Yes.
Like this
We were
is
living in caves. We couldn't come up to pilgrimage. We were living in caves.
like wild beasts, like to the land.
Close to the land, right. Okay, so we do have, Hanukkah is mentioned 7 different places in the Mishnah. Each time, and the Mishnah is like the foundational layer of Rabbinic Judaism. So, and it's referenced in a non-controversial way. It's just like it's clear that people were celebrating it in the time of the Mishnah from the way that it's referenced.
And what's the time of the Mishnah?
About 100 years after the destruction of the temple.
So about
100,
100 years
150.
later.
It was written down in
destruction of the
220.
first temple?
No, the second temple.
Of the second temple.
So it was written down in about 220
Okay. Okay.
CE.
220 CE, and we're ending here BCE 125.
Yes,
So maybe 200-300 years later.
exactly. So by the time of the Mishnah,
Okay.
Hanukkah had clearly been being celebrated. However, there's no Masechet, there's no tractate of the Mishnah about Hanukkah. It's possible, but unlikely, that it existed and it didn't survive or was deliberately excised.
Hanukkah.
There's no specific section of the Mishnah about Hanukkah per se. There is one about Yom Kippur.
You're
there is
saying
one
there's
about
reference to it. 'cause-
But it's referenced, and we can look at those there on the next page. But let's look at this first.
Well, is there a Masechet about Purim?
Yes, Megillah.
Okay.
It's
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
Masechet Megillah, and interestingly, Masechet Megillah is mainly about the treatment of the physical scroll of the book of
the first
Esther, the book of Esther.
Right.
But it's from that text that we derive most of our laws about Sifrei Torah, which is interesting when you think about because Esther famously doesn't have the name of God in it. So all these rules about how you have to create and preserve and take care of and respect the scroll of Esther are then
Yeah.
like
all the
you
more
would
so for the
deduce-
ones where
yeah,
God's name is
exactly.
in them.
Well, also, it's in Masechet Megillah, in that tractate about Megillat Esther. We also get stuff about the treatment of spaces that have been synagogues, and derelict ex-synagogues. But we also get it's in that Masechet where we get the instructions for what the Torah readings are for the different fast days and holidays, including that on Hanukkah we read the princes bringing their Numbers chapter 7, where the princes bring
So
their
you're saying it
offerings.
mentions Hanukkah?
It mentions Hanukkah.
As that word, Hanukkah?
As that word Hanukkah.
Wow.
We'll look at those in a second.
Okay, interesting.
I just want to bring us first to the Talmud.
Sorry.
So although the
Thank you.
Talmud, yes, although the Talmud doesn't have like an extensive discussion about Hanukkah,
Yeah.
what it does have are some sort of passing references to Hanukkah, as Rabbi Mark probably mentioned, including in the middle of a discussion about what wicks you can use to light Shabbat candles. They're like, oh, well, these ones aren't kosher for Shabbat, but they are kosher for Hanukkah, because Hanukkah is on the weekdays, and you can fiddle with the wicks on the weekday in a way that you can't on Shabbat. And then another stage is like, no, because Hanukkah is also sometimes Shabbat, so you wouldn't want to get used to fiddling with the wicks, and then you might desecrate Shabbat. So there's this kind of like throwaway like discussion
References
to Hanukkah in the Talmud, but that's pretty much the only place it appears in the Talmud, almost.
Interesting.
And this is a continuation of that conversation. This next text, Shabbat 21b, 5.
Mm-hmm.
The sages taught in a Baraita, which means an authoritative text. A Baraita is from the same period as the Mishnah, but it didn't make it into the Mishnah. But it means it's ancient and authoritative from the point of view of the Talmud. The sages taught in a Baraita that the basic mitzvah of Hanukkah is actually just to have one light per household per day. But if you're extra scrupulous, each person in the household should have a light every day.
Oh.
And if you're extra scrupulous, you adjust the number of lights daily. Beit Shammai says on the first day you kindle 8 lights, and then 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Beit Hillel says on the first day you light 1 light, and from there 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? We are all familiar with this. We know this famous idea that Beit Shammai says you go from 8 to 1. Beit Hillel says you go from 1 to 8. You might know that Reb Zalman used to do
That's
both.
what I was going to say, both.
He used to do both.
You've just told me a couple days ago. They'd light both
Both at
ways
once, yeah.
at the same
I
time.
actually did that last year, and
That's cool.
it is cool. I don't know whether to give away this. Well,
Get lost
remind
in
me
math,
about the
though.
punchline, because I want to come around back to that idea at the very end of this class. So see if you can remind me.
Good idea of lighting both ways.
Yes. Just to say, it's kind of interesting that all of us probably grew up with, or like we're very used to. Everyone in the house probably has their own menorah, or maybe
Not my house.
you had just one menorah for
We
the
had
house.
one for the family.
One for the family.
Yeah, we did too.
Really? Oh, I grew up with everyone having their own. Or my parents had one.
Now
me
we
and
do,
my
yeah.
brother each had one. The more the merrier.
Yeah.
And publicizing the miracle.
Yeah.
And this idea of like you do 1, then you do 2, then you do 3, absolutely standard. Interestingly, from the perspective of the Talmud, that's like only if you're super
Yeah, it is.
super
isn't it?
prum.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, just like you light 1 candle per household every day for 8 days. But the bit that I want to get to is the explanation for this, which is like what's the reasoning for Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel? So this is the next bit. Rabbi Bar Chana said that Rabbi Yochanan said there were 2 elders in Sidon, and one of them acted in accordance with the opinion of Beit Shammai, and the other in accordance with Beit Hillel, and each provided a reason. So Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel actually didn't give reasons, but a few generations later, we've got some people saying, this is the reason. So the one, Beit Shammai, which is 8765432, this number of lights corresponds to the bulls of the festival. And remember, when it says the festival, it means the festival of Sukkot, like we just said.
Ah, I forgot that.
So you remember that on Sukkot, we sacrifice 70 bulls corresponding to the nations of the earth. But it's 13 on the first day, and then 12, and then 11, and 10. It adds up to 70. But basically, Beit Shammai is saying, just like on Sukkot, you start with a lot and reduce 1 every day. That's why you do the same for the candles, for the lights. And Beit Hillel says, well, it's to do with the one who lights in accordance with Beit Hillel says, it's a general principle that we only increase in holiness, we don't decrease in holiness.
And that's Hillel.
That's Hillel. So you start with 1, you don't want to decrease, you want to go from 1 to many. That's the better way around.
Increase abundance.
Increase abundance. What I want to point out here that there's another of these echoes, like just we saw in Maccabees, this idea that Hanukkah is like a make-up date for Sukkot, and that's why it's 8 days. because Sukkot is 8 days. For us, it's a bit obscured because we have like the second day Yom Tov thing. Pesach's also 8 days, and Sukkot ends up being 9 days. With Shmini Atzeret having 2 days.
Right.
But originally, Sukkot.
But in Israel, it wouldn't be 9 days.
It's 8 days in Israel. That's right,
Yeah.
and Pesach is 7 days. But for most of our history, for 2,000 years of diaspora, we've had 8 days of Pesach and 9 days of Sukkot, and so we lose the idea of how special it is to have an 8th day. There are some sources that suggest that Shavuot was 7 days, or like in some ways Shavuot is 7 days. Like actually, like fasting and eulogies are suspended for 7 days for starting from the first day of Shavuot, and like you could bring your offerings for 7 days. So even though we don't keep it as a full 7-day festival, there's some kind of resonance of it being a 7-day festival.
And all that slaughtering, is that to feed the community?
Yes, those animals were eaten by the public, and also if you've been a what's it called, like a pastoral farmer, you know that you need to get rid of all the males, right? Like
I forgot that.
yeah, you don't
Yes.
you don't want to feed them through the winter. It's fine in the summer; they just eat grass, right? But you can't actually, like, it doesn't make sense.
To feed them.
Because you don't want to keep all the males. Ultimately, you're going to eat them anyway. And feeding them through the winter takes a lot of resource.
Right.
And so it's probably better to kill them in the fall, salt the meat, and then eat the meat through the winter, potentially.
Exactly my direction of question was, I mean, if we're slaughtering 70 bulls, that's a lot of A, meat, and B, care for if you don't slaughter. Just what you said.
Although 70 bulls, I mean, in the scheme of things, for a whole population.
Yeah, for 1 million people, no big deal. I mean, not much.
Not much, right.
But for a small community,
Yeah.
could feed everyone through the winter.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, I might not know the answer, but please ask it.
But you're doing great.
Thanks.
It's really interesting, these reasons that they're giving.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see, okay, the number of bulls, that's the first I've heard of that. But then the principle of going from 1 to 8 would be that you should elevate to a higher level in matters of sanctity and not downgrade.
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't that actually support Shammai's version?
Say more.
Because when you reduce it to the 1, then that's the unity of Hashem. That's the highest level.
Such a chassid. Oh, beautiful. I
So
think
I don't understand how that's.
Well, I think they just mean in a less metaphorical way. You're saying 1 is the highest because
Yeah.
1 is the ultimate
Well, that's the way we've
unity.
learned it about what Shammai is saying.
You're
right?
a
But not-
chassid. No, but
Say
on
what
a
I've
more
learned,
literal
eh?
level, it's like 8 to 1 is a reduction. On a literal level.
But a higher level of sanctity is more lights. Is that?
Yeah, or
you
like
buy that?
Oh, it's like the idea of
Depends on how dark it is.
If you use a particular cup for kiddush,
Yeah.
then it becomes your kiddush cup, and you shouldn't use it on a regular
For soda pop.
for soda pop. Or if you use these candlesticks for your Shabbos candlesticks, don't light them during the week. They're your Shabbos candlesticks. That's the kind of idea of like you don't downgrade in matters of holiness. Like once it's attained a certain level, you don't demote it to secular use.
Okay, I don't know, because they get consumed. They're not,
Well, the candles, the
Yeah.
fire.
All right. Anyway,
But that's like us.
That's the only.
It's a good question.
That's the only justification that we get.
For
Anything else is
Behilel
more.
and Bet Shammai.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's more modern interpretations of what they meant.
Good
But
question.
I mean, by original text.
I did actually skip the one in between. I think
Oh,
it did say
okay.
something slightly different, but I forget
Okay.
if it
But we
was-
can see that on the app. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, go
This
to
is-
Sefaria, look
Alright.
up Shabbat 21b6,
Okay.
or at the end we can look it up
Okay.
and see if there's something.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, that's like the generally accepted idea of why 8 to 1 or 1 to 8.
Yeah.
This is what's kind of come down to us.
And we can make valid or not valid for both.
Yes. Or, as we see from the Talmud, we could just light 1 candle
Right.
a night for 8 days.
I think about like hard times, like during, God forbid, may it never come again, the Holocaust. They didn't have 8 candles,
Right.
and still they had sanctification.
Right. And maybe in other times less extreme than the Holocaust. That's when people were poor and like lights were hard, for us.
Yeah.
easy peasy. I can get on Amazon a
Right.
box of candles for $4 or whatever. You know, it's not a
Right, but
It's
not
not
in
good.
not 2,000 years ago.
yes, or even 500 years
Or even
ago,
500,
or even 200
even
years ago.
200.
Apparently, Hanukkah really wasn't celebrated in America. It had a 20th century Renaissance, but I was reading something this week about how it was really not widely celebrated.
Because it's considered a minor
It
holiday.
is a
in
minor
any event,
holiday.
right?
It is a minor holiday, and like part of it's, you know, Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach said it's like the holiday of the future, like this is the beginning of the Messianic age, because you have all the like mitzvot are set, like you have the high level of rejoicing, you have Hallel every day for a week, and it's the full Hallel, not just a half Hallel.
Yeah.
Like Rosh Chodesh.
I didn't realize that, and I was here yesterday, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, you do full Hallel.
I had no idea.
You have
that
Torah
do
reading
that.
every
I didn't know
day.
either. I have
Yeah,
Torah reading
you do
every
Torah
day.
reading every day.
Yeah.
You have
For the 8 days.
which is the only time in the calendar you have Torah reading every day and full Hallel. Actually, it's not true. Pesach you do, and Sukkot. But
On
so it's
Pesach, do you have it every day?
You have
Huh?
Torah
During
reading
the-
every day too.
mhm.
That makes sense.
but and Hallel as well. But those are major holidays, right?
Right,
Right.
those are the
Those
three
are the
majors.
biggest ones.
Right.
So you have like as high a level of like this rejoicing and sanctity and also as we'll see, similar to the major holidays, you're not supposed to. Well, it's also true of minor holidays. You're not supposed to. It interrupts Shiva, and if you have to do a funeral, you do a more limited funeral. You're not supposed to give a hesped. You're not supposed to give a
For
eulogy.
Hanukkah too.
For Hanukkah too, and you're not supposed to fast on those days.
You're not
because
supposed to. So
to
what?
fast, 'cause
So
they're
if
birthdays.
someone died first day of Hanukkah, you don't sit Shiva until after Hanukkah's
You
over.
you don't sit Shiva.
You don't sit Shiva at all. You say
Because
rejoice,
by then it's
rejoice.
too late.
And also the idea, this is discussed, there's a whole Masechet Moed Katan which discusses this. Basically the idea is like, how I understand it, bottom line is that Shiva is a place to like gather community around you.
Mm-hmm.
And on a holiday you get that,
You're already gathered.
you gathered already. So the tone is different. Like you don't
Nice.
have exactly the same Shiva practices. Like in a Shiva,
Because
people
you're
would
in
come
Chag.
to
You're
you.
also saying Kaddish
You
numerous
would,
times.
You would still say Kaddish.
Yeah.
You would still say Kaddish for sure. And
Interesting.
yeah, but yes, the holiday interrupts Shiva, which is very hard. Obviously, if God forbid you lose someone right before Yom Tov, very difficult. But anyway, what I was saying about Hanukkah is like, and the this the Ikvita de Mashiach, the footsteps of the Mashiach, like the beginning of the Messianic era, is that you have all the high of Hallel every day and all that, but you don't have any of the restrictions. Like Purim and Hanukkah, like you can drive your car and use money, and so there's this way in which like holiness is diffused into ordinary living
Nice.
in a way that for Pesach or whatever,
You would have more boundaries.
It's more boundaried, much more boundaried.
So at the time of Mashiach, is Hanukkah in there with Purim? Is what's
As
left?
we keep keeping it.
Yeah,
Good question. Good question.
I've only heard Purim. Am I
I've only heard
remembering
Purim
right?
too.
Okay.
Yeah. Purim and Yom Kippur.
Oh.
But it's one of those throwaway remarks, like 613, that
Wait,
people like
Purim
really
and Yom
latch onto.
Kippur?
Yeah, Purim and Yom Kippur are supposed to be what's left in the time to come.
The Purim and
Yom
Yom
Kippurim.
Kippurim.
Is Hanukkah considered the other side of Purim?
In a
In some
sense, because they're
I mean, they're both coming from below.
exactly,
Yeah.
and they're both roughly in the same period between the destruction of the first temple and the destruction of the second temple. They're both, yes, as you say, from below, like popular miracles. They both have this quality of like they have all the do's, but they don't have all the don'ts, And we say Al Hanissim on both. We don't say Hallel on Purim, interestingly, which is odd. You'd think you would say Hallel on such a great day of rescue.
Interesting.
But we do say Al Hanissim in the special insertion upon the miracles that gets added to the benching and gets added to the Amidah on both days. And it has the same
And only
beginning,
then.
and then it has a little paragraph about what the miracle was, but it has the same like opening. So there are ways in which they're sisters, and Kabbalistically they're mapped to Netzach and Hod.
Purim and
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah or Netzach and Hod.
And opinions vary about which one's
Which one's
which.
which.
And
Zalman
Netzach
does that
and
too.
Hod are supposed to be kind of inseparable as well, more so than the other Sefirot.
Right.
So some people say Hanukkah, Hod, like Hoda'ah, like
I don't know,
Thanksgiving.
I'd switch it.
Others
it's like
also
it's more
say
active.
Netzach was like the military victory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way they always translate it is victory,
Victory.
which is so weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
it's
doesn't
a
sink
siege
with
with it.
any meaning.
Yeah.
Whereas Purim is
More like-
Queen Esther, like yielding.
Yes. And
Yeah.
there's and
That's my
Netzach
vote.
I like it.
and Netzach is Moses and Hod is Aaron. And there's a lot about how Esther is actually kind of in the image of the high priest as she goes into the court of the king and is received. It's like the high priest going in on Yom Kippur, and Purim is like Yom Kippur. Whereas Netzach and Moshe goes with Hanukkah because it's, as we'll see, this is really such an extraordinary example of like oral Torah at work. Like the new texts, the new emergent practice like comes through and takes root with or without the acquiescence of the rabbis.
You know what else is interesting?
Yeah.
Is like, so Moshe was doing,
Mm-hmm.
thinking of, hitting the rock and going to the point of when he was supposed to. And then Hanukkah kind of goes over the boundary of what they should have done. So
There's
they're
a lot
both
of-
very active doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
A lot
love
of
that.
hitting. A lot of hitting. Yeah, good point. Good point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This really helps. It's adding a lot of dimension.
We were supposed to do this last week. I was thought that would be helpful at the beginning of Hanukkah. But
That's okay.
No,
We're
we're
loving
loving
it
it
right
right
now.
now.
years. We'll have many more
Perfect.
years to remember it.
We weren't ready.
And we're still
we
in
weren't ready.
Hanukkah.
We were
and-
exactly.
We're
We
very
weren't ready.
vigilant.
I'm not complaining. I'm just
And I couldn't have come last Sunday. It
Well,
was
when
my
we
daughter's
were
birthday.
Just you and me, and perhaps Daniel and the
I
live
think I
stream.
couldn't have come either. Yeah, here we are.
Here we are.
Hineni.
Baruch
All
Hashem.
right.
And we got to be at a press this morning.
Amen.
Another of the, the mystery of the 8.
Well, that is a real mystery. If we were talking about mystery, the bris.
And it's 8.
It's a whole. That's a whole.
Gewalt.
Gewalt. It's a mystery. Let's hold it on that mystery for now.
Right. Another time.
Another time. So one more text which is really important to know about, and which, for all that I spent 5 years in rabbinical school, etc., I only found out about this particular text in the last 2 years, I think, or maybe even 1 year.
Well, that's the beauty of our system.
Yes,
is
so
I've
much
been
to
studying
learn.
since I was in my 20s, and
Yeah.
now I'm in my late 70s, and still
more to
new
learn.
stuff.
Still more to learn. So there is this document called Megillat Ta'anit,
Okay.
I've heard of that.
which, you might have. There's also Masechet Ta'anit, which is a tractate of the Mishnah. Not the same thing. Megillat Ta'anit, the scroll of fasting, was composed in Talmudic Israel / Babylon between about 40 to 70 CE. So before the Mishnah, after the Maccabees, and this
And
chronicle.
we're in Babylonia now.
It says, so again, this is from Sepharim. It was composed in Talmudic Israel / Babylon.
Okay.
So is it in both
So
Talmuds?
actually, we don't. Both Talmuds reference it.
Interesting.
Both Talmuds know about it, which is
Okay.
and it's written in Hebrew. So it's probably from Israel, but I haven't done that much research to tell you about it.
Right, and if we take the Israel people
Oh, no,
and
no,
move them,
it's-
they're
it's-
still Israel
Sorry, it's
people.
not in Hebrew. It's in Aramaic. I apologize. And
Okay.
it goes. If you look at it, you can also find this on Sefaria. It's organized by month. It's organized chronologically through the year. It's very interesting because it gives us a lot of holidays that we have no idea that are no longer observed. But it used to be
Wow.
that, well, as I put here, the chronicle is 35 days on which public fasting was prohibited in recognition of joyful events. So this teaches us a few things. It used to be that public fasting was a much bigger deal than it is now. People used to do, you can read in Masechet Ta'anit, the tractate of the Mishnah about Ta'anit, they used to institute fasts in times of crisis. Like if the rains hadn't fallen by X date, then they would start fasting every Monday and Thursday, and they would shut all the shops and they would close the bathhouses, and like they would try and sort of inflict a sense of public urgency and get people to pray and like fast and like take it upon themselves to take it seriously
And draw in the needed resolution.
and draw in the needed resolution, right? So public fasting was a much bigger deal back in the day, and actually it has been through most of Jewish history, not only in Second Temple times. Through much of Jewish history, there have been many more fasts, and pious people would fast. Like some people still fast every Monday and Thursday. There are some people fast the day before Rosh Chodesh and do a Yom Kippur Katan, a miniature Yom Kippur fast, and do the vidui and everything, and like keep it as a miniature Yom Kippur. Some people fast on Friday up until Shabbat. Like there's all like people who are more into the rigor of it and like fasting or don't like fasting, but like not like afflicting themselves.
Well, there's that too, and that's a different side.
That is
Also.
So there, in any case, Megillat Ta'anit tells us about all these minor holidays we no longer celebrate, because there was some sort of like miraculous salvation, or it's the outside of one of the characters from the Bible, all these things. So this is one of the, if you're interested in the calendar, as I am, this is one of those fascinating texts that tells us about all sorts of dates that we no longer know or celebrate. However, Purim and Hanukkah are both mentioned in Megillat Ta'anit, and they're the only two dates discussed in Megillat Ta'anit that we still observe today.
Only Hanukkah and Purim.
Only Hanukkah and Purim. So that's another way in which they're
Wait,
like...
say that again?
Of the 35 holidays which
Fasting.
you can't fast on,
Which
you
you
can't
can't
fast on,
Okay.
discussed in
Thank you.
this text, only Purim and Hanukkah are still celebrated today.
Okay.
And so this is what it tells us about Hanukkah in Megillat Ta'anit. And this is where we're going to have the answer to your question.
Okay.
Your initial question, where do we get the miracle of the oils? So on the fifth day, everyone see where I am?
On the 25th.
Sorry,
No.
yes. We are...
There, I got it.
Yeah, you got it. On the 25th day, in the 25th of the month of Kislev, we're in the chapter on Kislev, on the 25th of the month is Hanukkah. 8 days on which one does not eulogize. So that's the other thing. No fasting, no eulogies. That's like
And
the
eulogizing would mean honoring the dead.
specifically giving a full hesped at a funeral. I don't know what they did in ancient times, but nowadays, if someone is being buried or dies if someone's being buried on a Rosh Chodesh, for instance, or you get around it, you say like, I'm not going to give a hesped because today is Rosh
Then they do. It
Chodesh.
seems like they do anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then you tell
So
it
I'm just going to make a few remarks.
So it's just like I
We're just
would have
gonna
said
talk about it
10 times as much,
but,
but you don't know what that would have been.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm doing.
You note that you're not making a hesped, but of
While
course
you
you don't. Of course you still want to say some good things about the person who's passed away. Of course you do.
Of
But
course.
you don't. But it might be shorter. My grandfather was buried on Rosh Chodesh ER, and I remember this that it was more concise.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
It is sad.
I don't
It
like
is sad,
that. Yeah.
especially when there's
Especially
someone
your beloveds. I
well,
want to.
and someone who's a really good
Well,
person.
can they write it
Right.
down and still like give it to the
Say it
family
later.
or something?
Yeah, but it's different if you say it 8 days after the funeral.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you got to bury it when you got to bury.
Right,
Yeah.
right. All right. So someone want to read to us?
Okay, on the
Because,
25th of
yeah.
the month is Hanukkah, 8 days on which one does not eulogize. Because when the Greeks entered the temple, they defiled all the oil there. When the hand of the Hasmoneans was made strong and they defeat the Greeks, they checked in the temple and only found 1 jar of oil, sealed with the mark of the high priest, which remained undefiled. Though there was only enough in it to light for 1 day, a miracle occurred through it, and they lit the temple lamps from it for 8 days. The following year, they decreed these to be 8 days of celebration.
Now, this was like just after CE.
Yeah. Well, this text
200
is
years
written.
later or
This
something?
text was written down a couple hundred
About
years
that.
later. Yeah, 150, 170.
And what justification did they set for making Hanukkah 8 days? Wasn't the dedication
The Chanukah, which means
of
that they
Hanukkah, which Moshe did in the wilderness, only 7 days? As it says, and you shall not leave the entrance of the tent of meeting for 7 days. And it says the one who brought his offering on the first day was in Bamidbar, and on the 7th day Ephraim made his offering. So too we find at the dedication which Shlomo made that it only lasted 7 days. As it says, for the inauguration of the altar they made 7 days, and the feast 7 days.
Okay, so just to
This is getting
sorry, I just
spinning out somewhere.
I'll just summarize for you. What
Okay.
they're saying is like, why 8 days? The
Right.
dedication of the Mishkan was only for 7 days.
Uh-huh.
Proof text.
And the other one.
And the dedication of the first temple was only for 7 days. Proof text. So why this 8 days? That goes above and beyond the actual dedication of the Mishkan
Really
and the
big
actual
deal.
dedication of the first temple, which you would think.
But it already said that the oil lasted for 8 days.
Okay, but actually, this is such classic rabbinic logic. classic. They spill so much ink on this. They're like, but the miracle was only 7 days because there was enough oil for 1 day. So why are we still give 8 days? This is such rabbinic logic. For us, it's like, Meshuggah.
Right.
It was 8 days in the original thing, so we do 8 days now. It doesn't matter that there was enough oil for 1 day, so only 7 days for miraculous. To my mind, I'm like, that's just
the 8 days.
whatever. That's a daft question. But for the rabbinic mind, that's a fascinating question, and they try all sorts of ways to get around it.
And the 8th day is like the super magic day.
And we ate as
beyond the beyond.